Every warrior failed to rescue the alien princess until a human mechanic brought WD-40. Tyler Grant had stopped noticing the grease under his fingernails a long time ago. On Meridian 7, a huge Galactic Coalition station hanging in orbit above a swirling blue-white gas giant, grease was more of a uniform than his actual coveralls. He stood in the cargo bay, wiping his hands on a rag that was somehow dirtier than his skin, watching nobles in shimmering armor and embroidered robes drift by in small, glittering groups. They moved like they owned the stars. He moved like he owned a stubborn hydro wrench. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. To them, the human mechanic barely existed. Just another maintenance tech in a forgotten corner of a very important station. The call for heroes had gone out 3 cycles ago. Princess Ira of the Valerian Empire, third daughter of Emperor Corvus himself, had been sealed inside an ancient artifact called the Celestial Vault. It was an ominous, beautiful, intimidating cube built by the long-extinct architects, a civilization so advanced that their leftover junk could rewrite the textbooks of half the galaxy. The vault, however, was not junk. It was a prison. 43 champions had answered the call. Famous warriors with legendary weapons, mystic orders, elite special forces, cyber-enhanced mercenaries. Every one of them had vowed to crack the Celestial Vault, rescue the alien princess, claim the Emperor's promised reward, and become part of Imperial legend. 43 have failed. They came back with bent blades, fried weapons, shattered pride, and very quiet ships. The diplomatic hall carried the scent of ozone, burnt metal, and humiliation. Tyler didn't care much about empires or royal drama. His daily war was against jammed cargo doors, miscalibrated oxygen regulators, cranky waste recyclers, and people who thought, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" was a personality trait. He was elbow deep in a panel near the maintenance bay when the air changed. That was the first sign. The second sign was the shadow blocking the light. He straightened and turned. Standing in the doorway was Cormarmac, Meridian 7 station administrator, a towering Draxian whose scales gleamed like oiled armor under the harsh maintenance lights. His triple-jointed arms were crossed over his chest. His formal robe, a deep imperial purple with silver threads that caught the glow of nearby status panels. 3 of his 4 eyes looked exhausted. The 4th eye, cybernetic and amber, pulsed softly. Tyler flicked grease off his fingers and tried to keep it light. "If you're here to tell me the waste system's acting up again," he said, "I already know. I'm on it. Nobody wants a sewage tsunami across 3 decks." Cormarmac's mandibles clicked together. A sound Tyler had learned could mean anything from amusement to you're dangerously close to being spaced. "The waste system is functioning within acceptable parameters," the Draxian said, voice smooth but tight. "Mechanic Grant, I come on a matter of far greater importance." Tyler tossed the filthy rag onto his improvised workbench, which was really just a cargo container he'd bolted to the wall and called a desk. "Greater than preventing the station from smelling like a backed-up sewer?" he asked. "Must be serious." The administrator's scales darkened slightly, a sign of stress or shame. Tyler was still working out the nuances. "The Valerian princess remains imprisoned," Cormarmac said. "The Empire grows impatient. If she is not freed within 2 cycles, they will classify the failure as negligence by the Coalition. Meridian 7 will be held responsible." Tyler picked up a hydro wrench, turned it in his hands, and set it back down. "And you're telling me this because—" Cormarmac's scales rippled in a way Tyler had never seen before. Reluctant, embarrassed, cornered. "Because every champion, every hero, every warrior of renown has failed. The Celestial Vault ignores energy weapons, brute force, and advanced technology. The High Council believes an unconventional approach may be required." Tyler raised an eyebrow. On humans, it meant skepticism. On Draxians, it meant nothing, but he did it anyway. "Unconventional," he said. "You mean someone who doesn't know what he's doing?" "I mean," Cormarmac replied carefully, "someone who thinks differently. Humans are known for their peculiar problem-solving methods. Crude, perhaps, but occasionally effective. So let me make sure I've got this right, Tyler said. You had 43 of the galaxy's best fighters try to open a door. They all failed. And now you want the maintenance guy to take a crack at it because we're too stubborn or too dumb to know it's impossible. That, Cormarmax said, is not how I would phrase it. But the essence is accurate. Will you attempt it or not? Tyler thought about it. He thought about the princess locked in a box for cycles, about the Valerian Empire's reputation for taking perceived insults very personally, and about how many things he'd managed to fix because he refused to accept that impossible was the final answer. He also thought about the way Cormarmac's shoulders slumped with a kind of quiet desperation. Fine, Tyler said at last. I'll look at your impossible box. But I'm bringing my tools. The Celestial Vault sat at the center of the station's diplomatic hall, which now looked less like a place for treaties and more like a crime scene. A ring of scorched floor marked where plasma cutters had raged. Sections of wall bore spiderweb cracks from the recoil of battering rams and impact cannons. Scattered on tables and in sealed evidence cases were the broken remains of indestructible weapons and experimental devices that had done exactly nothing. The vault itself was a cube roughly 3 meters on each side, made of a smooth, dull material that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Geometric patterns crawled across its surface, shifting subtly when you looked too long, like a magic eye poster designed by mad gods. It looked both impossibly advanced and weirdly stubborn, as if it existed mostly to annoy everyone. Tyler walked slow laps around it, tool bag hanging from his shoulder. Behind him, Cormarmax stood with his arms folded, trying to look dignified and instead radiating a very specific kind of nervous energy. Beyond the administrator, a crowd had gathered. Diplomats, guards, technicians, curious bystanders. Word had spread fast. A human mechanic was going to have a go at the vault. It sounded like a joke even inside Tyler's own head. He knelt and ran his fingers along one of the cube's edges. The surface was cool, almost too cool, like metal left in deep shade for hours. It was also impossibly smooth, except for one thing, a single narrow seam that ran around one face of the cube. No handle, no keyhole, no visible mechanisms, just a line and a lot of attitude. He traced the seam again, thoughtful. Has anyone tried asking it nicely? He said aloud. Someone in the crowd laughed. A couple of others snorted. Cormarmac's scales twitched. This is not a moment for humor, Mechanic Grant, the administrator said. Tyler shrugged. Wasn't joking, he said. He placed his palm flat against the surface and spoke clearly, feeling half idiotic. Hey, Vault, open up. Nothing happened. No lights. No hum. No tingle. Just a cube ignoring him as thoroughly as the nobles did. Worth a shot, Tyler muttered. He swung his tool bag around, popped it open, and started laying things out. Wrenches in 3 sizes, 2 screwdrivers that had seen better centuries, an ancient handheld scanner whose diagnostics were more personality than software, a spool of wire, electrical tape, a small light, a couple of spare couplings, and 1 blue and yellow can that had followed him through 3-star systems. A Keeltherian knight in full ceremonial armor stepped forward from the crowd. His name was Vex. Tyler recognized him from 2 weeks back when he'd repaired the knight's jammed landing gear. Vex's silver carapace gleamed. His 4 arms bristled with weapons, each one lovingly maintained and probably tremendously expensive. Mechanic, Vex said with stiff politeness, mandibles clicking. I do not wish to insult you, but I attempted to breach this vault with a molecular disruptor blade forged in the core of a dying star. The blade shattered. What do you hope to accomplish with hand tools? Tyler looked up at him. Well, Vex, he said, I'm kind of hoping the architects didn't design this thing to defend against a guy with a wrench. The universe has a dark sense of humor. Might as well see if it's on my side. A silicate scholar floated closer, her body a constellation of living crystal that bent light into shifting rainbows. Crystalline Seven's voice sounded like wind chimes on a cold morning. The architects were masters of defensive design, she said. Their locks respond only to precise energy signatures, quantum frequency keys, or dimensional codes. Without the proper credentials, the vault is theoretically impossible to open. Theoretically, Tyler repeated. My favorite word. It usually means somebody made assumptions. He ran the old scanner along the seam. The device beeped, coughed, thought hard, and finally showed a flat line of nothing. No energy signature. No power readings. No weird frequencies. Just mass. He switched functions. Same result. The crowd shifted impatiently. This wasn't what they'd come for. They'd expected some wild human trick, some clever hack, some dramatic failure. Instead, they were getting a guy on his knees staring at a line in a wall. Tyler sat back and frowned. His brain went sideways the way it always did when faced with a problem everyone else had already labeled unfixable. He remembered a cargo door on Outpost 12 that had welded itself shut with rust and spite. He remembered a filtration system on the transport ship Wanderer that he'd resurrected with coffee filters and pure stubbornness. He remembered a pressure seal patched with chewing gum and wire insulation. He leaned closer to the seam and snapped on his small inspection light. The beam slid along the edge, picking out details the naked eye missed. At first, he saw nothing. Then he focused harder. There, tiny irregularities along the seam. Minuscule pitting. A faint matte roughness that broke the perfect smoothness of the surrounding surface. Tyler blinked. Then he laughed, once sharp and incredulous. Cormarmac's mandibles clicked sharply. What, the administrator demanded, is amusing Mechanic Grant? Tyler motioned Crystal Lynn 7 closer and pointed to the seam. How long has this thing been sitting around, he asked. Exact number. Station records. Your species loves records. Crystal Lynn 7's inner facets pulsed as she interfaced with the nearest terminal. According to Coalition archives, she said, the Celestial Vault was recovered from a derelict architect vessel approximately 4,000 cycles ago. It has been in Coalition custody ever since. It has been exposed to multiple atmospheric conditions during study and display. However, architect alloys do not corrode. They are reputedly immune to entropy. Yeah, Tyler said. Well, either their marketing department exaggerated, or this vault spent a long time in an environment it wasn't designed for. The crowd stirred. What are you implying? Crystal Lynn 7 asked, sounding offended for an extinct civilization. I'm implying, Tyler said, that this isn't an energy field or a quantum field or a magic curse keeping your alien princess in there. The door's stuck. He tapped the seam with a knuckle. This is corrosion. Oxidation. The fancy artifact equivalent of a rusty hinge. A wave of denial went through the hall. Impossible. Architect materials can't rust. This is absurd. Tyler dug into his tool bag and pulled out the battered blue and yellow can. The label was faded, but the words were still readable in old Earth Standard. WD-40. Water displacement formula number 40. Penetrating lubricant. Cormarmac stared. What? The administrator asked slowly. Is that? This, Tyler said, shaking the can until the little metal ball rattled inside, is one of humanity's greatest inventions. We've been using it since before we left our home planet. It loosens stuck bolts, silences squeaky hinges, and makes stubborn metal remember how to move again. If your godlike architect cube is stuck because of 4,000 cycles of microscopic gunk, this is the best conversation starter I've got. You intend, Vex said carefully, to defeat an architect lock with a chemical spray? I intend, Tyler said, to unstick a stuck door. Stand back. This stuff stinks. He fitted the thin red straw onto the nozzle, leaned close to the seam, and pressed down. The can hissed, releasing a thin jet of lubricant into the hairline crack. He worked his way steadily around the entire perimeter of the door face, filling every tiny gap. The sharp petroleum smell spread through the hall, cutting sharply through the lingering scent of ozone and scorched tile. Aliens recoiled. Crystalline 7's outer layers clouded. What is that odor? That, Tyler said, still spraying, is the smell of human ingenuity. Or human stubbornness. Usually both. He set the can down and waited. This was the part most people hated. The part that looked like nothing was happening. The part where patience did the heavy lifting. The crowd grew restless. Whispers rose and fell. That's it. He sprayed it with something. This is insulting. Tyler ignored them. He learned a long time ago that you couldn't rush penetrating oil. It had to seep into the microscopic gaps, break down the bonds of whatever crud was in there, and convince the metal that moving was a good idea again. After several long minutes, he stood and wiped his hands on his coveralls. He stepped up to the vault and placed both palms flat against the cold surface. He pushed. Nothing. Someone snickered. A few people laughed outright. Tyler felt the attention sharpening into ridicule, betting pools cashing out in his peripheral vision. He shifted his stance, braced his boots more firmly, and pushed again. Still nothing. He could feel the skepticism like static electricity. Then he changed his mind. He grabbed the edge of the door and pulled instead of pushed. The celestial vault door moved. It didn't explode outward in a blaze of holy light. It didn't sing ancient harmonies or throw sparks across dimensions. It just slid open with a gritty grinding sound, like an old door that hadn't been used in far too long finally giving up and doing what it was supposed to do. A breath of stale air flowed out, carrying the flat taste of long-sealed space and the faintly floral scent of whatever environment had been maintained inside. The hall went dead silent. Tyler stared into the dim interior. The void inside wasn't as big as he'd imagined, just enough space for one person to sit or stand. He saw smooth walls, subtle geometric lines, and, on a simple bench, a figure. Princess Ira of the Valerian Empire rose slowly to her feet. She was alien royalty in every sense of the term. Her skin carried a soft inner glow, shifting in slow gradients between silver and pale blue, like moonlight over water. Large golden eyes, slit-pupilled and bright, took in the hall and then fixed on Tyler with a mixture of disbelief and cautious curiosity. Her hair floated and drifted around her in deep violet waves threaded with silver strands, as if caught in a gentle current only she could feel. Robes of some luminous fabric draped over her form, moving like captured starlight and yet clearly real cloth. She stepped to the threshold, blinking at the brightness of the hall. Her gaze moved over the scorched floors, cracked walls, and the empty pedestals where once legendary weapons had shattered. Then her attention returned to the human in grease-stained coveralls, standing with one hand still on the door. "You opened it," she said, voice melodic but edged with stunned disbelief. Tyler nodded. "Door was stuck," he said. "I unstuck it." She stepped out of the vault with careful, controlled grace, as though she wasn't entirely convinced the floor would hold her. Every eye in the room tracked her, some with awe, some with calculation, some with naked relief. 43 champions attempted my rescue," she said, her gaze sweeping the hall. 43 warriors with legendary weapons and ancient techniques. All failed. Her eyes returned to Tyler. "And you freed me." "Not me," Tyler said. He reached down, picked up the blue and yellow can, and tossed it lightly in his hand. "Us. Me and a little bit of chemical assistance." Her golden eyes fixed on the can. "And that is?" Cormarmac finally found his voice, striding forward. His scales had shifted to a deep shade that might have been relief, embarrassment, or both. "Your Highness," he said formally, "this is Tyler Grant, a human maintenance technician assigned to Meridian 7. He opened the celestial vault with a chemical lubricant." Princess Ira's expression cycled through several emotions Tyler couldn't name. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It started as a small, incredulous chuckle and grew into a bright, clear laugh that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. "You mean to tell me," she said between breaths, "that I spent 3 cycles listening to warriors swear eternal glory, watching their weapons shatter, hearing energy cannons fail, and in the end, I am rescued by a mechanic with a spray can?" Tyler shrugged. "To be fair," he said, "it's a really good spray can." Her laughter softened into a smile that made her alien features somehow more humanly readable. In that moment, with grease stains on his sleeves and WD-40 in his hand, Tyler Grant felt like the entire station had turned upside down. Cormarmac stepped closer, every bit of his training fighting his natural discomfort. "Your Highness," he said, "we must inform your father immediately. A royal transport will be dispatched. For now, you require secure quarters and medical evaluation." Later, Princess Ira said quietly, still looking at Tyler, "First, I wish to understand something. She tilted her head slightly, hair drifting. How did you see what none of the champions saw? She asked him. How did you find a way to break the unbreakable lock? Tyler glanced at the open vault, the seeping WD-40, the stunned faces. I fixed things, he said simply. Long enough, and you stop treating every problem like a mystery and start treating it like a puzzle. Everyone else came here expecting a grand legendary solution because the architects were supposed to be perfect. But nothing made by people or aliens is perfect. Sometimes a door is just a door. Sometimes it's just stuck. Something shifted in her expression at that answer. A small flicker of recognition or respect. And yet, she said, that just stuck door held my entire future. The crowd began to disperse as security and medical teams moved in. Decontamination scans flashed over the princess. Data pads chirped. Someone quietly started cleaning the scuff marks off the floor, as if polite tidiness could erase the humiliation of 43 defeated legends. Later, after the formalities and scans and diplomatic reports, Tyler found himself standing with Princess Ira in the station's observation lounge. It was a wide, gently curving room with transparent walls that looked out over space. Stars hung like scattered embers in the black. A nebula painted the void with swirling purple and blue clouds. Tyler had eaten more than a few lonely sandwiches here on break, watching cargo ships come and go. He'd never been here with alien royalty before. Ira stood at the window, her reflection ghosted over the stars, face pensive. Tyler leaned against the railing a few steps away, hands hooked into his pockets, giving her space. Do you know why I was in that vault? She asked, eyes still on the stars. I figure politics, Tyler said. Royal families never do anything simple. It was a test, she said. My father believes his children must prove themselves to rule. For my eldest brother, the test was conquest. For my sister, diplomacy. For me, he chose survival. Her fingers tightened on the rail. I was to remain in the celestial vault until freed by a champion worthy of my hand in marriage. Tyler stared at her. So that whole rescue the alien princess thing wasn't just a dramatic story hook, he said slowly. Your father literally put you in a box and offered your hand as a prize. Her laugh was brittle. He is an emperor, she said. Extremes are his natural language. 43 champions came, claiming honor and devotion and destiny. Not one of them cared about me. Only what I represented. Power, alliance, a path to the throne. And I, Tyler began. You freed me because leaving someone in a box offended you, she finished. Because an administrator you barely looked desperate. Because a stuck door bothered you. You saw a problem, not a prize. A person, not a tool. He had no good comeback to that. So he did what he was good at. He kept it simple. Also, he said, I really hate stuck doors. For the first time, her smile reached her eyes in a way that wasn't edged with irony or bitterness. Tell me about Earth, she said softly. About this world that makes mechanics who defy empires with a can of lubricant. So he did. He talked about New Seattle's endless rain, about the way it drummed on metal roofs and filled every alley with the smell of wet concrete and coffee. He talked about his father's tiny repair shop and how he'd learned to listen to the language of broken machines. He shared the feeling of cold mornings holding a hot mug, of cheap food eaten after a long shift, of leaving Earth on a colony transport because the stars were calling and there were so many things out there waiting to be fixed. She listened without interrupting, golden eyes intent. You speak of simple things, she said at last, with reverence. Most nobles I know speak only of grand strategies and legendary deeds. Someone has to keep the toilets working behind all those legendary deeds, Tyler said. Otherwise, the heroes complain. Ira's laugh was clean and honest this time. I like you, Tyler Grant, she said. You are refreshingly direct. He shifted his weight, suddenly aware of the grease on his sleeves and the fact that he'd met her less than a station day ago by opening her prison with WD-40. I'm really just a mechanic, he said. Nothing legendary about that. She turned back to the window, her expression softer. Sometimes, she said, the ones who think they are just anything are the ones who change everything. Before he could ask what she meant, the station's comm system chimed. Cormarmac's voice echoed through hidden speakers, formal and precise. "Attention all personnel," he announced. "Valerian Royal Transport has arrived and requests immediate audience with Princess Ira. All relevant parties report to the diplomatic hall." Ira's shoulders tensed. The warmth in her features cooled as she donned a more formal mask. "It appears," she said, "my father wastes no time." Tyler straightened. "Better get you to the hall," he said. "Wouldn't want to keep an emperor waiting. They probably charge late fees." She looked at him with a strange mix of dread and determination. "Will you come with me?" she asked. "I would appreciate a familiar face." He glanced at his chronometer. The waste recycler would wait. Politics wouldn't. "I can spare an hour," he said. "Besides, I have a feeling this is going to be interesting." He had no idea just how much that one decision was about to change his life. Tyler Grant had never walked into the diplomatic hall feeling like he mattered before. Usually, when he stepped through those tall, arching doors, people barely paused in their conversations. Sometimes they glanced his way only so they could step around him, as though he were part of the wall, station infrastructure, not a person. Today was different. Today, every eye tracked him, some with disbelief, some with amusement, a few with poorly concealed irritation. But many, too many, with the kind of desperate curiosity people feel when their worldview has been shaken and they're trying to see what kind of creature dare to shake it. Tyler wasn't used to attention, especially attention that came with broadcast drones hovering overhead, recording the moment for imperial documentation. Small hovering spheres, black and gold, with humming grav stabilizers that glinted whenever they caught the lights. They moved in graceful arcs around the hall, tracking the princess, the human mechanic, and the station officials. Princess Ira walked beside Tyler, though every Valerian in the room clearly expected her to move ahead of him. She didn't. She stayed half a step behind him, matching his pace, hands folded together at her waist, her floating hair drifting in soft, subtle waves. Her luminescent skin reflected the hall lights, a soft silver-blue halo hovering around her form like a living glow. Tyler wasn't used to walking next to royalty. He wasn't used to walking next to anyone who wasn't also carrying a tool bag and grumbling about low-budget station maintenance. He noticed the princess occasionally stealing sidelong glances at the crowd, then back at him, as if gauging his reaction to the attention. "You seem remarkably calm," she murmured. Tyler snorted. "Trust me, I'm not calm. I'm just too confused to panic." That earned a faint smile from her, but it vanished quickly as they reached the center of the hall. Waiting for them was a Valerian delegation. 15 individuals in shimmering robes, each woven with threads of actual captured starlight, an expensive fabric used only by those who wished to announce their importance before they even spoke. At their head stood a man whose presence radiated authority and danger, Lord Arcturus. Tall, golden-skinned, with hair that shimmered in red and gold hues like a controlled flame, he wore a floating crown suspended above his head by intricate microgravity emitters. His robes were layered silver and gold, creating an effect like a small supernova wrapped around his form. His golden eyes were cold, calculating and sharp enough to slice through steel. Tyler immediately disliked him. Lord Arcturus bowed to Princess Ira, but the bow was shallow, polite, and performed with the stiff reluctance of a man fulfilling a duty he didn't respect. "Your Highness," he said, voice smooth as polished glass. "The Emperor rejoices in your restoration and awaits your return with great anticipation." Princess Ira returned the bow, her expression flawless but devoid of warmth. "Lord Arcturus, I am grateful for the Empire's concern." Then Arcturus turned. He looked at Tyler the way someone might look at an unexpected stain on an otherwise pristine wall. "And this," he said, tone dripping disdain, "is the human mechanic who allegedly opened the celestial vault." "Allegedly?" Tyler muttered before he could stop himself. Ira shot him a warning glance, but Arcturus continued. "A mechanic. How quaint." Tyler resisted the urge to wipe his hands on his coveralls just to spite the noble. Princess Ira spoke sharply. "Lord Arcturus, your tone is inappropriate. This man freed me." Arcturus's jaw tightened, but he forced a stiff smile. "Of course, Your Highness." The Emperor is quite interested in meeting the individual responsible for this curious feat. Curious. Not impressive. Not heroic. Not miraculous. Curious. Tyler gripped the WD-40 can in his pocket a little tighter. Arcturus lifted his chin slightly. As tradition dictates, the Emperor had prepared a grand ceremony for the champion who opened the vault, along with the customary reward. Iras stiffened. Tyler felt her tension before he understood why. The reward, Arcturus continued, is your hand in marriage. Tyler's stomach flipped. Iras' eyes narrowed just slightly, barely visible unless one was close enough to notice. But Tyler noticed. Arcturus pressed on. Given the circumstances, the Emperor acknowledges that this human qualifies. Tyler blinked. Qualifies? Arcturus ignored him completely. You shall, upon arrival, be wed in the imperial court. The Empire will accept the human mechanic as your rightful husband and elevate him to a rank suitable for marriage into the royal lineage. Tyler raised both hands. Okay, hold it. Time out. I'm not marrying anyone. I just opened a door. Arcturus's head snapped toward him. You dare refuse an imperial decree? Yes, Tyler said. Very easily. Actually, this marriage would grant you status, fortune, and privilege beyond anything you could imagine. Yeah, Tyler said. That's exactly why I'm refusing. I'm a mechanic, not a politician. Ira inhaled sharply, a mix of relief and something Tyler couldn't name. Lord Arcturus's face contorted in indignation. No one refuses the Emperor. Tyler shrugged. Well, he finally met one. For a moment, the hall vibrated with tension, as though the station itself sensed conflict brewing. Then Arcturus said something that made the temperature in the hall drop. Very well. If the human declines his rightful reward, then the Emperor's decree remains unfulfilled, and the princess must return to the celestial vault until a champion accepts the honor. Tyler froze. Iras' face drained of light. That is not the meaning of the decree, Iras said sharply. I've been freed. Arcturus shook his head slowly, savoring the moment. You are free only when freed by a champion who accepts the imperial reward. This human refuses, therefore. Over my dead body, Tyler said. A hush swept the hall. Arcturus stepped within inches of him, his floating crown shimmering as though sensing the rising hostility. You are speaking against the Empire, Arcturus hissed. This is treason. You have no authority here. You are nothing. Tyler didn't flinch. She's not going back in that box. You can forget that idea right now. Arcturus's hand went to the weapon on his belt, sleek, ornate, humming with dangerous energy. Bold words for a mechanic, he sneered. Ira stepped between them before the situation exploded. Stop, she said, voice strong. Enough. But Arcturus's weapon was half drawn. Tyler's fists clenched. Cormac, who had been standing at the edge of the hall, suddenly intervened with the one phrase that changed the entire course of everything. Any sentient being may request asylum. The hall froze. Arcturus slowly turned. You wouldn't dare. Cormac's mandibles clicked. Coalition law does not bend for empires. Ira inhaled sharply. Tyler felt her trembling. Princess Ira, Cormac said, speaking gently now, you have the right to request asylum if you fear persecution or unjust treatment. Arcturus's crown flared brightly. She is royal property. Tyler stepped forward. She's a person, not property. Ira lifted her chin, golden eyes burning with a quiet fire. I, Princess Ira of the Valerian Empire, she said with steady clarity, formally request asylum on Meridian 7. The hall erupted. Gasps. Shouts. A delegation in disarray. Arcturus's face twisted with rage. This is an act of war. Cormac's scales rippled like a storm. So be it. Arcturus nearly drew his weapon again before a dozen coalition guards leveled theirs in silent warning. He chose retreat instead, his fury trailing behind him like a living shadow. You have made enemies today, he spit at Tyler. Powerful ones. Tyler lifted the WD-40 can out of his pocket and clicked the nozzle for emphasis. Get in line, he said. Arcturus spun and strode from the hall, every step dripping with venom. As the door sealed behind him, Ira's strength finally faltered. Her knees buckled. Tyler caught her before she fell, arms steadying her trembling form. Her voice was small, fragile. "You shouldn't have done that." "Yeah," Tyler said softly, "I should have. Nobody gets to lock you up again." She leaned into him for a moment, breathing through fear and adrenaline. Cormac approached, his tone gentle, something Tyler had never heard from him. "We will begin formal asylum procedures immediately. It will be complicated." Ira straightened with slow resolve. "Complicated is better than captivity." Cormac nodded and turned to Tyler. "She must live on the station during the case. She must also hold employment to maintain her residency status. Her previous position as princess is not recognized as employment." Tyler blinked. "So she needs a job?" "Yes," Cormac said. "Preferably under a supervisor familiar with her situation." Ira looked at Tyler, and something softened in her expression. A quiet trust, a fragile hope. "Tyler," she said, "would you consider taking on apprentice?" Tyler nearly dropped the WD-40. "You? Want to learn maintenance?" She smiled faintly. "It seems honest work. Free work." Tyler rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, yeah, I guess I could teach you. Maintenance shafts aren't glamorous, though." Her smile widened. "Good. I'm tired of glamour." And just like that, Princess Ira of the Valerian Empire became the apprentice of Tyler Grant, maintenance technician on Meridian 7. The next days were chaos, humor, exhaustion, frustration, wonder, and something neither of them had the courage to name yet. On her first day in coveralls, Ira stared at a hydro wrench like it might explode. On her second day, she crawled into a maintenance shaft with the hesitant determination of someone facing a childhood nightmare. On her third day, she got grease on her hands and stared at them like they'd betrayed her royal lineage. Tyler laughed, gently, and handed her a rag. She learned to tighten bolts, calibrate sensors, identify faulty wiring, and listen for the sad hum of a failing air recycler, the one sound Tyler considered a personal insult. Every day, she grew more confident. Every day, Tyler grew more aware of her courage, intelligence, and stubborn commitment. Every day, they moved just a little closer, not in a dramatic way, but in the quiet way two people do when they're thrown into the same strange world and find comfort in each other's presence. One afternoon, while replacing an atmospheric valve, Ira asked, "Do you regret refusing the Emperor's offer? The power? The title?" Tyler didn't even look up from the coupling he was tightening. "Nope." She tilted her head. "Not even a little." He shrugged. "I fixed things. That's all I ever wanted." Ira smiled softly, the glow of her skin warming like sunrise. "Then perhaps," she said, "you have already fixed far more than you realize." There was a softness in her voice then, one he wasn't ready to confront. Not yet, and that softness lingered until the day Cormac summoned them urgently. "The Emperor has made his move," he said. Ira's face went pale. "What has he done?" Cormac's mandibles clicked in agitation. "He has issued a legal challenge. He claims you're stolen Imperial property. The Coalition is being pressured to return you." Ira shut her eyes, exhaling slowly. "Of course he did." Tyler felt a cold stab of anger. "What can we do?" Cormac hesitated, then spoke the words that changed the shape of destiny. If Princess Ira were legally married, she would no longer fall under the Emperor's authority. Marriage transfers legal guardianship in Valerian law. The Emperor cannot claim the spouse of another as property. Ira went motionless. Tyler did too. The room's air felt thinner. Cormac continued. "It would not need to be romantic. A legal marriage would grant protection." Ira slowly turned to Tyler. Her voice was quiet, trembling, not with fear, but with something far heavier. "What do you think?" The truth was simple. Tyler thought of her laugh echoing off metal walls. He thought of her determined crawl into maintenance shafts. He thought of her taste for freedom and her hatred of cages. He thought of the glow in her eyes when she fixed her first coolant pipe and realized she was capable. He thought of the Emperor threatening to lock her up again. And that made the answer easy. "Okay," he said. "I'll do it." Ira's breath caught. Are you certain? Tyler nodded. If marriage keeps you free, then yeah. We'll figure out the rest. Ira slowly reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm. Her grip was steady. Thank you, she whispered. Cormarmac cleared his throat loudly, too loudly. Then we shall begin the paperwork. And that was how a mechanic and a princess found themselves preparing for a wedding neither of them expected, but both of them desperately needed. The diplomatic hall, where the celestial vault once stood, looked very different when it was transformed into a wedding chamber. Not different in structure. The council hadn't approved any renovations, and even if they had, Tyler doubted anyone would spend money on redecorating a political headache into a romantic venue. But the atmosphere was different. The cold grandeur had softened into something more intimate, quieter, bearing the hush of a place holding its breath. Tyler Grant stood in the center of the hall, wearing the cleanest set of coveralls he'd been able to find. He had tried to scrub away the last few grease stains, but there were limits to what soap, water, and frantic scrubbing could do. In the end, he decided the smudges made him honest. He wasn't marrying a princess as a costume or an imposter. He was a mechanic. Grease stains came with the title. Princess Ira stood opposite him in simple silver-blue robes that shimmered like moonlight before dawn. Gone were the formal royal fabrics, the ceremonial drapes, the weight of expectation. The outfit she wore now was elegant, yes, undeniably beautiful, but was also practical, light, unadorned, as though she were dressing not for a throne, but for a life she chose. Her hair floated in soft waves, glowing gently in the hall's ambient light. Where she stood, the air seemed warmer, almost alive. Tyler wasn't sure if that was some Valerian biological quirk or just the strange sensation he always felt when she was near. Cormarmac stood before them, holding an official coalition datapad. His formal robes gathered around his tall frame like a curtain of deep purple night. Vex stood to Tyler's right as a witness, his forearms quietly folded in a gesture of respect. Crystalline, Seven floated beside Ira, her prismatic surface shimmering like a rainbow caught in crystal. In comparison to the surreal mix of alien culture, Tyler felt hilariously human, painfully human. A bag of meat in coveralls marrying a glowing space princess in front of diplomats who probably thought WD-40 was a mystical relic from an ancient religion. Well, Tyler murmured under his breath, at least this time no one's trying to shoot me. Yet, Vex whispered back. Tyler shot him a look. Great. Love the optimism. Princess Ira's lips curved in the smallest hint of amusement, as though she'd heard them. Cormarmac cleared his throat, signaling the ceremony's start. According to coalition law, he said, voice echoing in the slightly cavernous hall, marriage is a contract of mutual consent, partnership, and shared responsibility. Both parties must enter freely, without coercion. Tyler glanced at Ira. She met his gaze with steady confidence. Cormarmac continued. Do you, Tyler Grant of Earth, agree to enter into this legal marriage with Ira of the Valerian Empire, with full understanding of the political and personal implications? Tyler exhaled slowly. Yeah, I do. He didn't try to dress the words in poetry. He didn't need to. Simple truth had carried him this far. The administrator turned to the princess. And do you, Ira of the Valerian Empire, agree to enter into this legal marriage with Tyler Grant of Earth? Ira held Tyler's gaze. Her golden eyes shimmered with something soft, a quiet hope, a fragile courage. And when she spoke, her voice was unwavering. I do. Something inside Tyler shifted, like a mechanical lock clicking into place, not trapping but aligning. Cormarmac lifted the datapad. Then by the authority of the Galactic Coalition, I recognize this union as legally binding. You are now married. There is no kiss, no applause, no fanfare, just a moment suspended in time, a silent acknowledgement that something monumental had changed, something bigger than empire, bigger than law. Vex stepped forward first, his upper right arm extended, offering a Keeltherian handshake. You continue to astonish me, Vex said, mandibles vibrating with something that sounded like admiration. Opening an ancient vault with a spray was impressive. Marrying a princess in coveralls, maybe even more so. Tyler clasped the knight's hand, shaking it carefully. Thanks, I think. Crystalline. 7 floated closer, light refracting off her facets. This is the most statistically unusual wedding I have documented. 17 other royal ceremonies involved elaborate rituals, feasts, and political performances. None involved lubricating agents or mechanical technicians. Ira smiled warmly. Good. I have had enough of spectacle. When the formalities ended, Tyler and Ira found themselves alone. Well, not alone, exactly. The observation lounge was never truly empty. But for a little while, it felt like they had stepped outside the noise of the universe. Stars stretched before them, endless and serene. Meridian, 7 hung in its orbit like a lantern in a sea of darkness. They sat beside each other on the long bench that curved with the lounge's window. Not touching, but close enough that Tyler could sense her warmth. What happens now? Ira asked softly. Tyler rubbed the back of his neck. Well, the waste recycler on deck 7 is acting up again. She blinked, then laughed. A soft, musical sound. You're thinking about waste recyclers on your wedding day? Someone has to, Tyler said with a shrug. And you did say you wanted to keep learning maintenance. Her laughter deepened. Then yes, I would very much like to help repair the waste recycler. She turned toward him, expression growing gently serious. But before that, I want you to understand something. Her voice softened. This marriage may have begun as legal necessity, but I do not wish it to remain merely a bureaucratic arrangement. Tyler felt his pulse shift. Ira, I've spent my entire life trapped in roles others defined for me, she continued. Decoration, diplomatic pawn, prize for conquest. Her eyes glowed brighter. I want something real, something honest, something chosen. He swallowed, suddenly aware of how quiet the lounge had become. Ira, he said softly, we'll build whatever we build at the pace that feels right. I'm not going anywhere. Her shoulders relaxed, a subtle breath of relief escaping her. And, Tyler said, forcing a playful tone to ease her tension, before we make any major decisions, there's something I should warn you about. Her brow arched. Yes. I snore. She blinked, then laughed. Oh, and I sometimes glow in my sleep. Tyler grinned. I think we'll adapt. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the stars, letting reality settle into them one quiet breath at a time. The next 2 months unfolded like nothing either of them expected. For Tyler, life didn't change as dramatically as everyone assumed it would. He didn't move into some luxurious diplomatic suite or start speaking in political jargon. He still woke up at 0600, still drank terrible mess hall coffee, still fixed broken oxygen valves, and scolded technicians who tightened bolts too hard. But now he had an apprentice following him everywhere with a datapad, a determined expression, and questions. So many questions. Why do humans use 3 different wrench types when one design would suffice? Why does coolant smell like berries? Why must waste recyclers exist at all? Do atmospheric sensors truly become sad when malfunctioning? Tyler sometimes wondered if becoming a mentor was more exhausting than repairing life support systems. But he wouldn't have traded it. Princess Ira, no, Ira Grant, though she only used that name occasionally, threw herself into learning with the same intensity she applied to politics. She took notes. She made diagrams. She adapted to tight spaces. She even developed a fondness for recalibrating temperature regulators. Tyler had never seen someone get so excited over correct thermostat readings. They grew closer, not in sudden declarations or dramatic gestures, but in small ways. Shared tools, shared jokes, shared frustrations, shared victories. The kind of closeness built one small moment at a time. Then, one day, while working elbow deep inside a stubborn coolant pump, Ira asked, "Do you regret it?" Tyler paused mid-adjustment. "Regret what?" "Marrying me," she said, "refusing my father's offer, turning down wealth and power." Tyler resumed, tightening the bolt. "No." She tilted her head. "Not even a little." He grinned. "Ira, most of the rich people I've met, miserable. Power usually means fewer friends and more headaches. I've got a job I like, people I trust, and you're here learning how to fix pumps. That's more than enough. Ira's eyes softened with a warmth that made his chest feel strangely light. Then, she whispered, I am happy too. They finished the repair in peaceful silence, hands brushing now and then in ways that felt entirely accidental and entirely not accidental. But their peace didn't last. Cormarmac summoned them urgently one afternoon, and the tension in his posture warned them before he even spoke. The Emperor has made his move, he announced. Ira's skin dimmed slightly. What has he done? Cormarmac's mandibles clicked. He has filed a formal complaint with the Coalition High Council. He claims we are harboring stolen Imperial property. He demands your immediate return. Tyler clenched his jaw. She's not property. Cormarmac nodded. I agree, but the Emperor's influence is vast. He is threatening sanctions. The High Council may be pressured to rule in his favor. Ira took a steadying breath. Then what are our options? Cormarmac hesitated. There is one solution, he said, but you will not like it. Ira exchanged a glance with Tyler. Tell us. Under Valerian law, Cormarmac explained, your father retains legal authority over you unless you are married. Marriage transfers legal guardianship. If you were married to someone independent of the Empire, his claim over you would be null. Ira blinked. Tyler blinked. Vex, who happened to be in the room adjusting his blade, froze mid-motion. Are you suggesting? Ira began. A marriage of convenience, Cormarmac finished. It would be recognized by the Coalition, and it would strip your father of any legal hold. Ira turned to Tyler. Her expression wasn't fear. It was hope, and a quiet, trembling courage. Tyler, she whispered, what do you want? He didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked at her. Her intelligence, her strength, her awkwardness in maintenance shafts, her joy when something finally clicked, her laughter echoing in the coolant chambers, her fierce determination to be free, her gentle kindness. He thought of how much she'd changed, how much he had changed, and how much he wanted her to remain free. So he said the simplest, truest thing he could. Okay. Ira's breath caught. Okay. Yeah, Tyler said, smiling softly. If marriage keeps you free, we'll figure it out. Ira reached for his hand, fingers sliding against his palm, warm and trembling. You are giving me far more than freedom, Tyler Grant, she whispered. Cormarmac cleared his throat loudly. Then we will schedule the ceremony immediately. The rest unfolded quickly. Paperwork, witnesses, legal signatures. And after the ceremony came something no one saw coming. Something that changed everything again. Ira and Tyler were recalibrating atmospheric sensors in a maintenance shaft when Ira suddenly whispered, Tyler, I love you. He nearly dropped the calibration tool. The words hung in the air, fragile, luminous, terrifying. She waited, breath trembling. Tyler set the tool gently aside and turned to her. I love you too, he said. I love everything you're becoming, everything you've survived, everything you choose. Her luminescence brightened, soft and blooming. She kissed him. Stars spun outside. The station hummed around them. The atmospheric sensor beeped impatiently, reminding them it still needed calibration, but neither of them cared. That moment lit something in both of them that would not dim. But peace never came easily where empires were involved. 2 months after the ceremony, Cormarmac delivered news that changed both their futures again. The Emperor had officially disowned Ira, declared her dead to the Empire. Ira exhaled, a long, slow release that sounded like freedom. So I'm truly free, she said. Cormarmac nodded. Legally, politically, entirely. Tyler wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Ira leaned into him, smiling like someone tasting sunlight for the first time. But destiny wasn't finished with them. Not by a long shot. Because one day, while Tyler worked on a docking bay cargo door and Ira assisted, a sleek Valerian ship arrived. Its hatch opened, and an alien woman stepped out with luminescent skin, golden eyes, and deep crimson hair that floated behind her like a comet tail. Ira went pale. Lyona, she whispered. Sister, the newcomer held a single traveling bag. Father locked me in the celestial vault, she said calmly. 47 champions failed to release me. so I escaped through the maintenance hatch in the back. Tyler stared. There's a maintenance hatch? Of course, Leona said. Architects were practical. She smiled softly. I heard my sister found freedom here and married a mechanic. Tyler raised a hand. Hi. Leona bowed. Father believes you're a sorcerer with dangerous spray-can magic. Good, Tyler said. Let him think that. Ira rushed forward and embraced her sister tightly. When they pulled apart, tears shimmered in both their eyes. There's always room for family, Ira said. Leona smiled. Then, I would like asylum. Tyler exhaled slowly. Well, looks like we're building a bigger team. Ira squeezed his hand. He squeezed back. And just like that, a new chapter began. A second runaway princess, a growing found family, and a mechanic who just wanted to fix a cargo door, but ended up fixing lives, futures, and empires. The arrival of Princess Leona, Ira's younger sister, bold enough to escape an impossible vault through a maintenance hatch, through the entire station into a storm of bureaucratic chaos, diplomatic panic, and a strange, buzzing excitement that seemed to follow her everywhere she walked. But for Tyler, the change began as something simpler. His family had grown, unexpectedly, suddenly, strangely, and as Leona walked beside Ira through the docking bay, their hands still clasped tightly, as if afraid one of them might vanish, Tyler couldn't help noticing how different the two sisters were despite sharing the same luminescent skin, the same golden eyes, the same almost ethereal grace. Ira moved with quiet intensity, a weight of experience, fear, hope, and newfound freedom contained in every motion. Leona moved like she had fire in her bones. Her steps were light but confident, her red hair floating behind her in a shimmering wave like a banner announcing rebellion. She looked around the station with frank curiosity, nodding to passing technicians, waving at startled guards, and beaming at a maintenance drone that nearly crashed when it tried to bow to her. Ira noticed her sister's energy and sighed softly. She is different from me. Tyler gave a small smile. Yeah, I can tell. Ira elbowed him lightly, fighting back a smile of her own. Cormac awaited them in his office, datapads stacked in precarious towers and holographic displays flickering with new alerts. As the three entered, the administrator's 4 eyes widened in a rare display of shock. By all the suns, Cormac muttered, not another one. Leona gave a graceful bow. I am Princess Leona of the Valerian Empire. I seek asylum. Cormac stared at her, then at Ira, then at Tyler. Tyler lifted both hands. Don't look at me. She showed up on her own. Leona blinked innocently. I followed your example. Ira sighed. That is what worries me. Cormac rubbed the ridge above his eyes, a gesture Tyler now recognized as Draxian exasperation. Your father will accuse us of kidnapping half his royal family. Good, Leona said brightly. He needs the exercise. Tyler choked on a laugh. Ira squeezed her sister's arm gently. Cormac sighed again, the sound like metal groaning under stress. Very well. We will process your asylum request. But understand, this will worsen the Emperor's fury. That is acceptable, Leona said. I'm already disowned, I suspect. Tyler raised an eyebrow. Already, Leona shrugged. Most likely. Father is predictable. Ira's expression softened. She reached out, brushing a strand of red hair behind her sister's ear, an intimate gesture Tyler had never seen her make with anyone before. You will stay with us, Ira said gently. We will figure out your place here. Leona smiled, bright, fearless, hopeful. I am ready. Tyler had no idea what ready meant in this context, but he nodded anyway. The next few days on Meridian 7 were chaotic. News of a second Valerian princess requesting asylum spread through the station faster than malfunctioning air currents. Diplomats panicked. Technicians gossiped. Soldiers tightened security protocols. Maintenance workers whispered about whether Tyler was secretly building a princess collecting device using spare WD-40 cans. Tyler ignored the comments. Mostly, he focused instead on helping Leona adapt to life on a station where success wasn't measured by royal lineage, but by stability of oxygen levels and how quickly someone could troubleshoot a coolant leak. Ira had become his apprentice, and now Lyona wanted to learn too. But unlike Ira, who approached maintenance with scholarly curiosity, Lyona attacked it with enthusiasm bordering on reckless cheerfulness. On her first day, she picked up a plasma torch and asked, "Can I try?" Tyler nearly tackled her to get it away. "No," he said firmly. "Absolutely not. That is not how we start." Lyona blinked. "But Ira said you allow experimentation." Ira, who had just crawled out of maintenance, ducked with dust streaked across her cheeks, froze. "I said testing assumptions, not plasma welding random surfaces." Tyler sighed. "Okay, new rule. No torches." Lyona grinned. "Understood. For today." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "And tomorrow." Lyona's grin widened. "We shall see." Ira gave her sister a warning look. "Lyona, Tyler is teaching us for our safety." Lyona softened instantly, her expression shifting to sincere understanding. "You are right. I will do my best." Ira nodded approvingly. Tyler began to understand. Ira was the calm flame. Lyona was the wildfire. But both were learning quickly, and both found joy in small victories. Opening a jammed access panel, calibrating an atmospheric sensor, identifying a failing pump by sound alone. Tyler had not expected teaching to be rewarding. Exhausting, yes, but rewarding? Definitely not. Yet each time Ira lit up with pride or Lyona shouted, "I fixed it. I fixed something. Look." Tyler felt something warm in his chest. It was nice. Weird but nice. He found himself smiling more often than he expected. Then came the meeting that shifted everything again. Cormac summoned Tyler, Ira, and Lyona into his office. His scales were a shade darker than usual, anxious, irritated. Tyler braced himself. "What's wrong now?" Cormac gestured to the holographic display in front of him. In it, the Emperor of the Valerian Empire glared out, tall, furious, wrapped in imperial robes heavy enough to break a lesser being's spine. His golden eyes shone with fury. But it wasn't the Emperor's anger that made the air feel heavy. It was his words. "He has demanded the return of both princesses," Cormac said, "and he has declared Meridian 7 in violation of imperial law." Ira stiffened. Lyona crossed her arms, unimpressed. Cormac continued. "The Emperor claims that the celestial vaults exist for noble trials. Anyone removing a princess without accepting the prize, marriage, has broken ancient tradition." Lyona rolled her eyes. "Father is obsessed with tradition when it benefits him." Tyler frowned. He already disowned Ira. How does he still think he has a claim? Cormac sighed. "Because he is the Emperor. He believes his authority transcends logic." "Accurate," Ira murmured. Cormac looked directly at Tyler. "The High Council is split. Half believe the Emperor's claims have merit due to political pressure. Half believe his actions are a violation of sentient rights." Lyona grinned. "So half are cowards and half are reasonable." "A diplomatic summary," Cormac replied dryly. Ira stepped forward, her voice steady. "What do we need to do?" "Submit statements," Cormac replied. "Testify to your experiences. Prove coercion. Demonstrate the Emperor's disregard for your autonomy." Ira nodded. Lyona nodded as well. Tyler exhaled slowly. Then Cormac added something unexpected. "And Tyler, they want you there too." Tyler blinked. "Me? Why?" "Because you're central to both cases," Cormac said. "Your rescue of Ira. Your role in the asylum process. Your marriage." Tyler suddenly felt the weight of an entire empire pressing onto his shoulders. "Oh," he murmured. "Great." The hearing would take place in the Coalition Tribunal Chamber, a massive hall filled with delegates from dozens of species, judges with translation implants, glowing displays of legal texts, and enough formality to suffocate anyone not born into politics. Tyler was definitely not born into politics. He sat at the witness table beside Ira and Lyona. Ira's hand rested on his under the table, her thumb brushing slowly against his skin, a grounding gesture. Lyona sat on his other side, posture relaxed but eyes razor-sharp. Delegates murmured across the hall. The Emperor appeared on the central hollow screen, his expression carved from stone. "This tribunal," he began, "is convened under false pretenses. My daughters have been stolen from me, kidnapped by a human of low rank, and by a coalition station that seeks to undermine Valerian sovereignty." Tyler's jaw tightened. Ira whispered, "Breathe, Tyler." He inhaled slowly. The Emperor continued, "They must be returned immediately." Judge Serenus, a crystalline being whose facets glowed in shifting sands of color, raised a hand. "Princess Ira, your testimony." Ira rose to her feet, and the hall fell silent. "I chose asylum," she said, voice steady, resonant. "No one stole me. No one coerced me." The Emperor's hollow image glared. "You were placed in the vault to await a worthy champion. You were not to leave until—" "Until what?" Ira said sharply. "Until one of 43 strangers claimed me like a prize? Until I became a pawn in your games." The hall murmured. Ira's voice rose, not loud, but powerful. "I was locked in a vault for 3 cycles. No communication, no light, no freedom. That was your test, father. A test of obedience, a test of submission." The Emperor opened his mouth, but Ira continued before he could speak. "But the architects did not build the vault to test princesses. They built it to contain dangerous experiments. You used it as a cage." Her golden eyes shimmered. "And Tyler Grant freed me. Not for reward, not for power, not for glory. Because he would not leave a person trapped." The hall murmured louder. Delegates whispered to each other. A few nodded in agreement. Ira sat back down, trembling slightly. Tyler squeezed her hand. "Princess Lyona," Judge Serenus said, "your testimony." Lyona rose. Her voice was calm, steady, and utterly fearless. "Father placed me in the vault," she said. 47 champions failed. He would have left me there indefinitely. So I left on my own." Delegates gasped. "You escaped?" someone whispered. Lyona nodded. "Yes, through the maintenance hatch in the back." Eyes turned to Tyler. He raised a hand. "I didn't know about it." Lyona continued, "I came to Meridian 7 because Ira found freedom here, and because your laws recognize that sentient beings are not property." The Emperor snarled, "You are my daughters." Lyona's eyes flashed. "We are people, not possessions." The hall erupted into murmurs. Judge Serenus brought the chamber to order. "And now, we will hear from Tyler Grant." Tyler's stomach twisted. Ira squeezed his hand once more. Lyona gave him a small nod. He stood, cleared his throat, and stepped forward. "I'm just a mechanic," he began. "I fix things. That's it. I didn't free Ira because of destiny or prophecy or whatever the Emperor thinks. I freed her because the door was stuck." A few delegates chuckled softly. But Tyler continued, voice growing steadier. "I married Ira because she deserved freedom. Because she deserved choice. Because nobody, no matter how powerful, should control someone else's future." He looked directly at the Emperor's projection. "You treat your daughters like tools. Like leverage. You don't see them as people." The Emperor's expression twisted in rage. Tyler held his ground. "Ira and Lyona aren't possessions. They're smart, brave, incredible people who survived your tests and your cages. And if they want to stay here, they should stay." That's it. Silence fell like a wave. Ira's eyes shimmered with something warm, proud, unspoken. Lyona's lips curled into a fierce smile. Judge Serenus spoke. "This tribunal recognizes the testimonies as valid. The Emperor's claim is hereby rejected." Tyler exhaled. Ira sagged in relief. Lyona beamed. But the judge wasn't finished. "Princess Ira is no longer under imperial authority due to her legal marriage. Princess Lyona is granted immediate asylum due to demonstrated persecution." Ira squeezed Tyler's hand so tightly he nearly dropped the datapad he was holding. The Emperor roared with fury, but his projection flickered out as the tribunal cut the connection. It was done. The Empire's hold was broken. Ira and Lyona were free, for the first time in their lives. That evening, after hours of joyful chaos, unexpected congratulations, and Vex insisting they drink the strongest celebratory beverage he possessed, Tyler refused, remembering it once melted a wrench The sisters and Tyler gathered in the observation lounge. Ira leaned against Tyler, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. Lyona sprawled across a seat opposite them, feet dangling over the edge, looking unusually relaxed. Stars glittered beyond the glass, the same stars that once represented cages, now representing freedom. Ira whispered, "We are truly free." Tyler nodded. "Yeah, you are." Ira took his hand. "No, Tyler, we are." He swallowed. Warmth bloomed in his chest. Lyona smirked. "If you two start glowing at each other, I will leave the room." Ira laughed. "You glow in your sleep, too." Lyona gasped. "Ira." Tyler chuckled, leaning back, watching the sisters banter. The tension, the fear, the weight, they'd all gone. At least for tonight. Ira turned to him, golden eyes soft. "Tyler," she said quietly, "you changed everything." He shook his head. "No, I just opened a door." Ira smiled. "And sometimes that is enough to change an empire." 2 months later, everything felt different. Stable, free, hopeful. Ira and Lyona worked alongside Tyler daily, repairing ducts, stabilizing pressure valves, fixing stubborn coolant lines. Lyona nearly welded her own hair once. Ira saved her by cutting power to the torch 2 seconds before disaster. Tyler had never laughed so hard or panicked so quickly. Life was busy, strange, wonderful, but fate wasn't finished with him yet. One day, during the repair of a stubborn atmospheric regulator, Ira suddenly said, "Tyler, I need to tell you something." Her tone made him pause. He looked up. Her golden eyes glowed softly, not with fear, but with something deeper. "I love you," she murmured. Tyler's heart skipped. She continued, voice trembling just slightly. "I love how you see problems instead of impossibilities. I love how you treat every person the same, princess or mechanic. I love how you taught me the value of choosing my own future." She took his hand. "And I love you." Tyler pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he whispered. Ira glowed brighter. Lyona, from the other side of the room, groaned loudly. "Oh, stars, I am leaving before you start glowing in tandem." Ira laughed. Tyler kissed her softly. For the first time, the galaxy felt small in the best possible way. But the story wasn't over. Far from it. Their family would grow. Their challenges would deepen. Their love would strengthen. And the Valerian Empire would face consequences no emperor could ever predict. Life aboard Meridian. 7 settled into a rhythm that could only be described as peaceful chaos. With 2 Valerian princesses working in the maintenance department, station life transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Princess Ira had evolved from a hesitant apprentice unsure how to hold a wrench into a confident technician who could identify the subtle drone of an overworked atmospheric pump from 3 corridors away. She had grown comfortable with grease beneath her fingernails, comfortable crawling into tight spaces, comfortable laughing in the echoing halls of the station she now called home. Princess Lyona, fiery, bold, unpredictable, had also adapted in her own explosive way. While Ira approached maintenance with patience and precision, Lyona attacked each task with fearless curiosity, sometimes too fearless. One morning, Tyler found her crawling upside down along a maintenance pipe while explaining loudly to a startled technician, "I have discovered that gravity is a hindrance to creativity." Tyler grabbed her boot and pulled. "Lyona, down, but down." She sighed dramatically and slid back to the floor. "Humans are no fun." Ira snickered behind her datapad. Together, the sisters balanced each other. Ira's measured calm and Lyona's boundless energy created a strange harmony that made the maintenance bay feel more alive than ever. Tyler had grown used to opening his tool locker and finding one of them perched nearby with a question about quantum sealants, pipe torque limits, or why humans wore pockets. Lyona once asked, "If pockets are so useful, why do robes not have them?" Ira replied, "Because father believed aesthetics mattered more than practicality." Tyler added, "Welcome to fashion." And Lyona declared, "Fashion is foolish." But it wasn't all laughter and lessons. Even in peace, shadows lingered. The Emperor's rage vibrated across subspace channels. Reports of his political maneuvers, his stall tactics, and his threats continued to reach Meridian 7. Though the Coalition Tribunal had officially rejected his claims, the Emperor was not one to accept defeat easily. Cormarmac had warned them all. Do not assume the matter is settled. The Emperor's pride is wounded. A wounded Valerian sovereign is dangerous. Ira and Lyona grew increasingly cautious. They traveled in pairs through the station. They kept emergency comms active. Tyler made sure they memorized the fastest routes to secure zones, just in case. But something deeper changed too. The sisters, once royalty, raised in a palace of marble and light, discovered the messy, wonderful, unpredictable world of ordinary life. They learned jokes from human technicians. They learned to curse in 6 different languages from Draxian welders. They tasted greasy station food and declared it surprisingly delightful. They built friendships not shaped by status, but by shared work and honest conversation. For Ira, these moments held freedom. Real freedom. Not symbolic. Not conditional. Not granted by an empire that weighed her worth like currency. She felt it every time Tyler handed her a tool without hesitation. Every time she crawled through a maintenance duct without guards watching her every move, every time she fell asleep beside Tyler feeling safe. But even in this newfound peace, the universe has a way of testing the fragile beginnings of happiness. It was 6 months after Lyona's arrival when the warning came. Tyler and Ira were working together in the Environmental Control Center, recalibrating an atmospheric sensor that had been sending false readings for days. Ira had her hair tied back in a loose braid, practical, still elegant, and Tyler was elbow-deep in wiring when Lyona burst into the room. Her red hair floated wildly, her skin glowing brighter than usual. "Ships," she gasped. "Valerian warships." Tyler froze. "How many?" "3 dreadnoughts," Lyona said, breath shaking. "2 cruisers. They just dropped out of hyperspace and requested immediate access to the station." Ira's heart clenched. "Father." Cormarmac's voice echoed through the intercom. "Tyler Grant. Princess Ira. Princess Lyona. Report to command immediately." The run to command felt longer than any maintenance crawl through the tightest duct. Tyler could hear his own heartbeat, Ira's breath, the distant warning sirens vibrating through the station walls. When they arrived, the entire command deck was tense. Officers stood rigidly at their consoles. Security teams waited along the walls. Diplomats whispered frantically to each other. And on the main holo display, filling the screen with imperial fury, was Emperor Corvus, Ira's father. His golden eyes burned. His robes were layered with shimmering light, his crown brighter than ever, his presence radiating a power that once intimidated his children into silence. But today, facing him through the hollow image, Ira did not bow. And Lyona did not lower her gaze. Tyler stood beside them, WD-40 can clip casually to his belt. Corvus leaned forward, voice booming across the deck. "You dare shelter traitors. You dare defy the Empire. You dare mock the traditions of our lineage." Ira stepped forward, chin raised. "We dare to choose freedom," Lyona added, "and we are not your possessions." The Emperor snarled. "You have been corrupted by that human mechanic." Tyler raised a hand. "Hi." Corvus ignored him. "And by this station of cowards who hide behind false laws." Cormarmac stepped forward, all 4 eyes fixed firmly on the Emperor's projection. "Valerian sovereignty holds no power here," Cormarmac said. "Coalition law protects all sentient beings. Your daughters have chosen asylum. That choice stands." The Emperor's gaze settled on Tyler. "You," he said, voice low and dangerous. "You took Ira from her sacred trial. You stole Lyona. You marry one daughter to disgrace me. What will you do next? Collect my entire bloodline like trinkets?" Tyler shrugged. "Do you have more daughters locked in vaults?" "Tyler," Ira hissed, elbowing him. "What?" Tyler muttered. "It's a fair question." The Emperor's teeth flashed. "I will give you one chance. Return my daughters. Surrender them to Valerian custody, or I will take them myself. Ira stepped forward sharply. Father. Silence, the Emperor roared. Ira flinched, but did not retreat. Tyler stepped forward too, placing himself slightly between Ira and the hollow screen. No, he said. Just one word. The Emperor froze, stunned by the audacity of a human speaking to him like that. Tyler continued, voice steady. You're not taking them. You're not locking them up again. And you're not controlling their lives anymore. The Emperor's expression darkened. You are nothing. Maybe, Tyler said. But I'm nothing who helped your daughters realize they deserve freedom. Ira's breath caught softly. Lyona's chest lifted with fierce pride. The Emperor's voice sharpened. I have 5 warships. You have wrenches and insolence. Cormarmac stepped between the parties, raising a tough, clawed hand. Emperor Corvus, he said, listen carefully. The Emperor glared. This station is under Coalition protection. Any attempt to breach, board, or coerce will be considered an act of war. The High Council will respond accordingly. And I assure you, your empire is not prepared for that conflict. Corvus froze. His eyes moved from Cormarmac to Ira to Lyona, then back to Tyler. Slowly, something in his expression shifted, not softening, not breaking, but crumbling. For the first time, Ira saw something behind the rage. Fear. Not fear of war. Fear of losing control. Fear of being unable to force obedience. Corvus spoke again, but this time his voice was lower, almost brittle. Ira, Lyona, come home. Ira shook her head. No, we choose this life. Lyona added, together. Corvus's gaze locked onto Ira. You are my legacy. I am my own person, Ira said softly. Then the Emperor's gaze moved to Tyler. And you, Corvus whispered, you have taken everything from me. Tyler shook his head. No, I didn't take anything. You lost them the moment you put them in cages. Ira reached for Tyler's hand. Lyona stepped closer beside her. The Emperor looked at the 3 of them, the daughter who had left, the daughter who had escaped, the human who stood between them and the Empire. For a full, tense minute, the command deck was silent. Then, Corvus straightened. Coldness returned to his eyes, solidifying like a closing vault door. Then hear my decree. Ira's breath hitched. Lyona's skin dimmed. Tyler braced. Corvus lifted his head. Ira and Lyona are no longer daughters of the Valerian Empire. I disown them both. I erased their names from the royal line. They are dead to me. Ira inhaled sharply. Lyona balled her fists but remained silent. Corvus's voice dropped lower. And as for you, human mechanic of Earth, may your choices bury you. With a final flash, his image cut out. The warships lingered for a moment, weapons unpowered but threatening. Then, one by one, they turned and jumped back to hyperspace, leaving Meridian 7 in stunned silence. Ira stood motionless, gaze locked on the empty hollow display. Lyona stepped to her sister's side, resting a hand on her shoulder. Tyler's voice was quiet. Are you okay? Ira trembled, not with fear, not with grief, but with something deeper. Tyler, she whispered, for the first time in my life, I am completely free. Tyler placed his hand over hers. Lyona wiped at her eyes, then muttered, Father always said we were stubborn. Ira smiled faintly. He should not have taught us so well. Cormarmac cleared his throat. You two, and Tyler, are now fully protected under Coalition law. The Emperor has renounced all claims. Tyler exhaled. So it's over. Ira nodded. It's over. But Lyona added with a grin, and now it begins. Life after that moment changed in ways none of them had expected. Ira and Lyona officially became full-time maintenance technicians, titles that would have scandalized the Empire's nobility. They wore their coveralls proudly, adjusting belts and pockets like armor. Ira blossomed. She found purpose in fixing broken things. Not metaphorical things, though Tyler suspected she had fixed a great deal inside herself too, but real machinery. Air ducts, pipes, regulators, power lines. She laughed more. She worried less. And she loved. Quietly. Deeply. Without fear. Lyona thrived in her new life as well. She announced one afternoon that she wanted to specialize in emergency repairs because danger is exciting, which nearly gave Tyler cardiac arrest. Still, she proved talented, fast-thinking, brave, steady under pressure. Together, the sisters became something no one expected, a part of Meridian 7's beating heart. One evening, months after the Emperor's retreat, Tyler and Ira worked atop a ladder replacing a flickering conduit panel. Lyona was below, steadying the frame and telling a dramatic story about how she'd accidentally gotten into a diplomatic argument with a holographic ambassador from Tau Ceti. "It wasn't my fault," Lyona insisted. "His posture offended me." Tyler snorted. "How can a hologram's posture offend you?" It leaned in a condescending manner. Ira laughed, so hard she nearly dropped the screwdriver. Lyona squinted up at her. "I'm serious." Tyler grinned. "And that's what makes it great." Later, after the panel was fixed and the shift ended, Tyler and Ira wandered into the observation lounge. Their favorite place. The place where truth always seemed easier to speak. Stars spilled across the void outside. Nebulas painted the black with streaks of color. Ira slipped her hand into Tyler's. "We fixed 3 systems today." "Pretty good," Tyler said. "And the Emperor did not chase us." "Even better." She leaned lightly against him, her glow warm and soft. "Tyler," she whispered, "thank you for everything. For freedom. For choice. For teaching me how to build a life." He turned toward her. "Ira, I didn't build your life. I just opened a door." Ira smiled. "And some doors are meant to be opened." Their foreheads touched gently. Her hair floated around him like a soft halo. Her skin glowed brighter. Then she kissed him, soft, sure, full of love that had grown slowly, honestly, naturally. When the kiss broke, Lyona's voice echoed from the corridor. "Are you both glowing again?" "Honestly, at this point I should carry sunglasses." Ira laughed, pulling away reluctantly. Tyler called back. "Come on in, Lyona. We're not done glowing yet." "EW," Lyona groaned. "Disgusting." Ira squeezed Tyler's hand one more time. "Shall we go home?" she asked. Tyler nodded. "Yeah, let's go home." They left the observation lounge together. Ira glowing softly, Tyler smiling like the stars belonged to him, and Lyona following behind complaining loudly about romantic atmospheres. Meridian 7 hummed around them. Whole, alive, safe, and somewhere deep in the maintenance bay, tucked between a hydro wrench and a portable scanner, a battered blue and yellow can of WD-40 rested quietly, ready for the next impossible door, the next stubborn lock, the next miracle disguised as a stuck hinge. Because in the end, Tyler Grant wasn't a warrior or a hero or a chosen one. He was a mechanic. He fixed things. He opened doors. And sometimes, that was enough to change the galaxy.